What's going on, dude? Um, I'm just watching this video and I figured I'd turn this on so you could get my thoughts. Um, so just kind of taking you through the process of like how I break down video, especially a guy like you that can actually understand things on a deep level. It's more important for you to just hear how I think through these things and kind of expose yourself to it. So as I watch you throw, dude, I definitely remember you were always the guy that like in your old videos, you would coil back onto this backside like really hard. Okay. Um, Not that this is a bad thing, but when I say coil back, I mean your shoulders, you're like very much rotated onto your backside. So you're creating a lot of tension on this backside. I think that the only problem with you coiling back so far is in order to get this throw off, right? Obviously, we need to go here. You're going to need to rotate around really hard and be very spinny. So, if we can agree that velocity is force output magnified by time through the baseball, the most efficient line to push a baseball would be as far towards my target extension as I can get. Of course, if we come around the baseball, it's going to be a lot harder to apply force to that baseball. So we want to find a way to stay through this thing as long and as firm as we can. That's where velocity comes from. That's where backspin comes from. So as I'm thinking through this, we need to figure out, okay, if Nicholas really likes to get to this coiled position because that's where all of his tension is that he uses to whip this baseball. How do we get him to feel that in a more simple way, um, and in a way that closes him off a little bit less? So the next thing that I notice is your lower half. I don't know if there's as much tension between your lower half as you could get. You have to imagine if you had a lot of tension in your lower half, like if you were creating this stretch in your lower half, that's going to be enough to pull you through directionally into your throw. But I think part of the reason you coil so hard with the upper half and like rotate so far is because you're not getting as much of that tension from your lower half. So again, I'm just kind of spitballing. I'm judging you off of one clip, but I think you're smart enough to understand these things. So the way that I think about the throw now is I want to think about our backside connection. Okay, the connection between our back shoulder, our back hip, our back knee, and our back foot is our backside spring. So as this, I'm oversimplifying what I teach here, but as this ball comes towards our glove, I want to think about driving this lead leg, essentially this lead knee, where you can imagine this to be, away from an engaged backside. So like the tension that you will feel between these 2 points, that stretch of that lower half, is what's going to pull us through our throw. And then we want to think to be as simple and repeatable with the upper half. So like almost thinking to set it and forget it. Everything should be smooth and short with the upper half, and we should be violently aggressive with the lower half to create that force we want without, you know, all these extra movements. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts. Like I think you're like part of it too is you kind of rotate into this. I see your hips rotating pretty early, and that can work. Um, but you know, a guy like you, like we're playing with very fine details. Like if you want to throw, 3, 4 miles an hour harder, just because it's sick, like we can look at these little things. But if you did this in a game, 1975 in a game consistently, you're gonna throw out runners. So this isn't a matter of, does Nicholas? I don't know. If you struggled throwing out runners, let me know that because maybe there's a consistency issue. And again, consistency and accuracy is just time through the baseball. You think about the barrel of a gun, but a sniper is more accurate because it stays in contact with that bullet longer. So when we watch you, you're very spinny, you're coming across the ball, and of course that might lead to some inconsistency. Like you're on the other side of the bag on this throw. Um, so we just want to think, how do we create the moves that allow us to stay through this baseball as long as possible? I like to be very fine with our movement, and think about our lines and how do we stay on those lines, um, as efficiently as possible. And I know I'm kind of getting to rambling here. So give me your thoughts on this. Obviously, we can go back and forth or whatever you need.